Peace, love, and blessings, fam. Johnny Sally here with day 17 of Wisdom of the Ages by Wayne W. Dyer. If you've missed the previous recordings, you can go catch them on YouTube at Loyalty Life, spelled Lyfe, Legacy LLC. Again, Loyalty Life Legacy LLC. Let's get to it. Oneness. From the Devotions upon Emergent Occasion. Meditation 17. No man is an island, entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a cloud be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a promontory were, as well as if a manor of thy friends or thine own were. Any man's death diminishes me, because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never sin to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. John Donne. John Donne was an English poet, noted as the first and one of the finest metaphysical poets. The paradoxical human union of spirit and matter was a recurring theme. Perhaps the single quality that defines mysticism is the idea of oneness that John Donne expresses so poignantly in this passage written in the early years of the 17th century. This idea of unity, consciousness, and the oneness of humanity is omnipresent in all the sacred literature as far back as the ancient Upanishads. Ancient mystical wisdom tells us that in the gardens of the mystics, distinctions such as I, you, he, she, and they do not exist. John Donne is expressing essentially the same thought. No man is an island, in the first line of this very famous poem. To reach a higher state of awareness and bliss in our lives, we must understand the truth of that first line. That can only happen when our ego mind gets the message. Our ego mind insists that we are separate from others and defined by where our boundaries stop and others start. Similarly, these ego minds tell us that we are separate from our environment and that we are here to sort of push it around as we desire. Yet, mystical teachers and poets are always reminding us of our connectedness and the oneness of everything and everyone. We must look beneath the surface and beyond appearances to grasp the unity consciousness they speak of. As we look at our body, it does appear to be a separate organism, but a closer look reveals a multitude of organs and rivers of fluids containing zillions of life forms, with even more zillions of invisible bacteria, all working together to form this body. To rephrase John Donne's enduring contribution, no cell is an island, entire of itself. Every cell is a piece of the body, a part of the main. If a life form be contaminated, the whole is the less. Any cell's illness or death diminishes me, because I am involved in the whole body. Even though the cells of your liver never make contact with the cells of your mouth, they are connected and vital to the entire body. So any cell that is diminished diminishes the whole. And so it is with all of humanity. We are all cells in this body called humanity. And to the extent that we think of ourselves as separate and therefore in competition with one another, we diminish the whole of humanity. Native Americans expressed this idea of oneness with all by saying, no tree has branches so foolish as to fight amongst themselves. No tree has branches so foolish as to fight among themselves. Obviously, any cell that goes to war against the neighboring cells in the same body will end up destroying the whole and itself in the process. This is what a cancer cell does. Fighting to cooperate with adjacent cells, it destroys them, and eventually, unless checked, it destroys the body and itself in the process. A very stupid organism indeed. In Devotions Upon Emergent Occasions by John Donne, he speaks to each one of us. He advises us that we are all members of one body, and no one of us can survive alone. Virtually, everything about our existence depends on the other cells in this larger body working with and for us. Your solitary existence would be like a heart beating outside of your body, independent of all the promontory arteries, veins, and organs that must work in harmony with the heart to keep you alive. Imagine a wave or a drop of water considering itself apart from the ocean. It is weak when separate from the ocean, but returned to its source, it is as powerful as the ocean. The poetic words of John Donne remind us of this truth. When we are as islands, entire of ourselves, we lose the power of our source and diminish the whole of humanity. But in the garden of the mystics, where we and us supplant I and you, warfare is impossible because on a round planet, choosing up sides is impossible. In our individual lives, seeing ourselves as islands that are not part of the whole is the cause of our inability to find the highest, the fullest, and the richest experience of life. When you see yourself as connected to everyone, you immediately cease your judgment of the other and see that person connected via invisible threads, just as your ankles and your elbows share the same unseen silent life force. Therefore, compassion becomes an automatic reaction to everyone. You see all of humanity as one undivided and indivisible family. Once you can view all others as family members rather than competitors or traitors, you will reach out with love rather than with a weapon of defense or destruction. This orientation of oneness is a radical shift from the separateness we learn in our tribes, families, and countries we inhabit. Our identification moves away from what is different about us to what we share in common. Our fixation is no longer on appearance, but on how vital we are to one another. Thus, hatred is replaced with the desire to resolve anything that divides us. Just as an oncologist works to have the entire organism eradicate the troublemaking cancer cell so that it can't be a force of disharmony in the body. I have found that I am much less troubled and stressful when I remember the opening 5 words of this sensitive passage. There was a time when I tended to view panhandlers, holding up cardboard signs pleading for money with contempt, often saying to myself or anyone within earshot, why don't they just go out and work for money like I do? Now, I remind myself that in some mysterious and yes, mystical way, I am connected to those people. Their poverty, uncleanness, and ill health diminishes all of us, myself included. I send them a silent blessing and vow to do more to end such conditions on the planet. And most important, I feel more compassionate and loving in my heart. I am reminded how we all need each other and that our connections are much greater than the mere tribal connections of our immediate genetic families. When you hear bells ringing out in sadness, indicating someone has been victimized by violence, listen carefully and remind yourself of what John Donne wrote over 4 centuries ago. That bell tolls for all of us, including thee. To apply these unity consciousness ideas in your life, begin to stop viewing yourself as distant and apart on the basis of your geography or your isolation from those who are struggling elsewhere. When you become aware of someone suffering on another shore, say a silent prayer for that person and see if you can experience in your heart your oneness with the person. See the divine creator of all and everyone and everything and behave each day as if the divine creator of all in all things truly mattered. Try to suspend your judgments of those who are less ambitious, less peaceful, and less loving, and instead know that hatred and judgment are the problems in the first place. When you judge the haters and hate the judgers, you are a part of the cancer rather than the treatment. Use fewer labels that distinguish you from them. You are not an American, Californian, Italian, Jew, middle aged, stocky, female, athletic, or any other label. You are a citizen of the world, and when you stop the labeling process, you will begin to see God in every garden, every forest, every home, every creature, and every person. And inner peace will be your reward. So often, we forget the oneness of this reality. And I believe it's because we're taught it as we grow up. We're taught to hold distinction and separateness in our everyday being to the degree that we as humanity could be the downfall of this program that's been put in place here on Mother Earth. Because we neglect not only ourselves, but the whole by not choosing to operate in cohesion. We do not seem to have the understanding that if we cohesively work together, everything works itself out. So we take from Mother Nature, from each other. And we begin to build this disdain of wanting to stay away because we don't align with how others operate. And I myself am guilty of it to a degree because sometimes it gets difficult dealing with earthling humans. But it doesn't stop me from sharing compassion and mercy towards them. I can only help an individual that is willing to help themselves. And we all have to begin to learn to help ourselves open up our heart space to be able to help other individuals, even in the smallest minute way of, as he expressed, praying. Look at the things that are going on all over the world, in Palestine, in Israel, in California right now, in Ghana, in Burkina Faso, in the Congo. There are so many things going on in this world that spiritually, if a lot more of us came together in that that consciousness of mindfulness and oneness, yes, we could drastically shift things. But for now, all we can do as individuals is pray. If you are able to send money, then do that. If you are able to provide any type of physical comfort to these individuals, and you know a way to get it to them, by all means do it. But other than that, you can simply send a green light from your heart space to a homeless individual, to a stranger on a daily basis. The first way you can begin to grow in connecting yourself with other people is to just smile more often. Share your smile. And every person you pass, smile at them. Even the most angry, disgruntled person, you will begin to see then how simple it is to shift someone's perspective and to bring them into the fold of oneness and lovingness that so many of us need that we don't even realize we need, because we're always taught survival of the fittest and every man for themselves. When, how is it that we all got here? No one of us is a god or a deity that self emulated, that got here by themselves. And if you are, then I ask you to continue to elevate and bring change to this reality because we need it. But until then, it's up to us. Now, there are some avatars on this planet that are assisting to wake us up, but again, they can only help us as much as we are willing to help ourselves. So let's help ourselves grow in oneness. Let's help ourselves grow in understanding each other. Let's help ourselves begin to carry the weight of the whole by working together. I thank you for being here, for yourself, first and foremost. I thank you for learning that you don't have to be who you were yesterday and that you can always change. And I want you to walk in love, walk in light, walk in peace, and know that you are loved.